Okay, I tried hopping in again. Yay! Okay, all I had to do was hop back out and in because on my end it was flashing green, but no one was responding in chat. Okay, now everybody can hear me? Oh, I'm seeing some people in the chat. Yeah! Alrighty. Alrighty, how's everyone doing? I just got home. I was running up the stairs, so I wonder if I had some. Usually, when I climb up the stairs after I get to my apartment complex before I get into my actual apartment, the Wi-Fi likes to be crazy. Sorry, I'm also ever so slightly out of breath. Alrighty, so welcome to the panel. I am basically going to be info dumping about Neanderthals today. Oh my gosh, I'm excited too, Kazuha. Hell yeah. Alrighty. Um, well, to start, hello, my name is Lynx. My pronouns are they, them, she, her. I'm kind of feminine, but I got a little bit of a fluid side to me, if y'all know what I mean. 5 a.m. for you. Oh God. Blessed be, good luck. I'll try not to ramble too much then. Luckily, I'm pretty sure this is being recorded, so you can, and if you do need to go to bed, I know it's a little bit late for some of y'all. Luckily for me, it's only about 10:20 p.m. I know I'm an American girl. Wait, no, that's Material World. Okay. Uh, hello. So, to introduce myself, I am Lynx. My pronouns are they, she, and I think I might be a Neanderthal-kin. I say think because I'm still questioning a little bit. Uh, so I guess let me just introduce you guys to how this journey started. So about a good year ago, I started gaining a special interest in my Neanderthal ancestors and trying to figure out who they were and what aspects of them are a part of me. I had this one major question, which at first I was a little bit embarrassed to ask out loud, but turns out I was totally justified in asking out loud, which was, are Neanderthals partially responsible for my neurodivergency? So I am several different kinds of older human. I am a catkin. I think I might be either a bobcat or a lynx. I also have a lot of house cat traits, so probably I tend to pick up some behaviors from my house cat roommate. I have a little black cat named Ria, and it's just her and me. She's currently napping right now. You've been sleeping all day, huh, honey? You're so eepy. Yeah. Do you want to play with Laser later? You just want to nap right now, huh? Okay. Anyways, so I was really wondering about, Neanderthals and stuff like that, all the while feeling like I was one of them. And I wasn't really quite sure how I thought about that, mostly because I wasn't really quite sure how my ancestors would feel about that. Would they be okay with me claiming that I am one of them? Who knows? But so far, I don't think they seem to mind. In fact, one of my earliest UPGs, UPG stands for Unverified Personal Gnosis. Basically, in some of the pagan community, that means your own personal experience with some aspect of spirituality, whether it be a deity or a spirit or some kind of practice that you do. Um, Whereas a shared personal gnosis is when you and maybe some other people are like, oh, we basically have the same experiences. So, like, for example, maybe I heard one time that people associate Freya, the Norse goddess of love and war and all of that badassery shit. They associate her with ladybugs, and there was actually one time where I may or may not have been sent a ladybug from her. That can be an example of a shared personal gnosis. And verified personal gnosis is basically the things that you see in like the myths and the official doctrine of any sort of group. It's things that have been, oh yes, for sure Thor is the god of protection and thunder and all that good shit. And for sure Odin is the god of wisdom and all of that knowledge stuff. Basically, it's it's the main thing that everybody kind of universally agrees upon. All right. Um, any questions so far? I should probably take my phone off of the low power mode. It's on 63% and it's charging. Let me just change up my settings real quick so I can actually see the chat and not have it close every 30 seconds. Alrighty. Okay. Um, So basically, I'm basically gonna just be info dumping for probably about an hour or so with some Q&A at the end. Um, let's see. Where do I start? Perhaps maybe I should start around Yuletide, not this past Yuletide, which is usually around January or so, but the year before. I want to say around January 2025, I think is around the time this happened. So for Yule. Actually, no, it was in December-ish before. Oh yes, my first official little story was around the winter solstice, which I think was like the shortest day of the year. Basically, I have a little local pagan group with my that's run by my friend. Basically, he likes to do rituals, and we come over to his house, and then we do the ritual with him. Um, And afterwards, I believe it was that night, I decided, you know what, it's the solstice and I want to give an offering to my ancestors. And at that point, I had already started researching Neanderthals. I already knew that they very much loved their protein. Fun fact about Neanderthals, they needed at least several hundred more calories than modern day Homo sapiens. And they were some muscly people, I can tell you. They will absolutely kick your butt at an arm wrestling match. Now, whether a child can beat a modern Homo sapien adult, I'm not sure. But for a fact, an adult Neanderthal could absolutely kick the butt or kick the arm rather, of a modern day Homo sapien. But basically, they needed a lot of muscle. They had not only more muscle, but probably some more fat as well. They were also shorter, more stout. I'm about 4 feet, 10.5 inches. I have no idea what that is in meters. I'm sorry, I'm a dumb American. I love to tease myself and my fellow Americans. I do, however, use Celsius nowadays for my little toaster oven. I'm very glad it has a Celsius setting so that I can learn the difference between Fahrenheit uh, and Celsius. Where was I? Right. Anyways, so I decided to basically share a meal. I grabbed some pieces of bread. I very lightly toasted it because that bread was very good soft. It was basically just some grocery store wheat bread. And then I'm very much pescatarian, so my preferred protein is things like fish, peanut butter, nuts, things like that. I'm not a fan of beans. I always found the texture to be too gritty. But anyways, I decided to take 2 slices of bread and I cut them in half and basically made little mini breads. One for me, one for my Irish ancestors, one for the gods, and one for the Neanderthal ancestors. So that was my offering. I grabbed some bread, some peanut butter, and a bunch of like sesame seeds and stuff like that. I tried to pack it with as much protein as I could find. And then that was that. Fast forward a couple months later to the Norse pagan holiday of Yule, which is typically a little bit after Christmas, usually tends to be around the January, February range. I know it has to do with, gosh, is it the first full moon after the solstice? I forget. But basically, typically it happens a little bit after Christmas. Also, just want to make sure everybody can still hear me. I'm not really seeing any much in the chat. So I just want to make sure everyone's good. Alrighty, can still hear. Good, good, good. Um, so when it came to be around Yuletide, I asked my friend, who's also my Gofi, which in a Norse pagan little group tends to be kind of like the spiritual leader of the group. I'm going to type it in chat. Gothi. So we do our little our little Yule ritual. And at the end of it, I ask if he can do a rune reading for me because I didn't have the energy to at the time, and I was very much, I guess, anxious about my own ability to do communication through divination. So basically, I'm like, do they like me? Do they like the offering? Like, I was just really nervous, wanting to know how my ancestors thought of me. And a couple of runes came up. The first one, which was the most significant, I want to say was Soilo, which kind of looks like an S, and it represents like the sun and that kind of vitality, that power. And I got this very strong feeling coming toward that rune, basically being like, bitch, we're happy you reached out in the place. Are you kidding? Welcome home. Like, I just felt like excitement and like that I had even reached out. And of course, it just totally went over my head. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And my friend goes, well, yeah, not many people reach that far back in their ancestry. And of course, my little autistic butt had to do a double take. Like, what do you mean people don't? What do you mean people don't go that far back? Um, but yeah, that's basically how it first kind of started out. So, I added them to my ancestor altar. I have a very small little, hopefully, don't think my ancestors will mind if I give a small little picture in the chat of what my tiny little. As soon as I found this little 3D printed tiny little mammoth, um, at a Ren fair, funnily enough, I immediately saw him and I'm like, oh, I'm giving him to my ancestors. And then sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes I feel the urge to like hug it and like, I mean, basically rub my face on it because that's as I like to give affection the cat kind of way, and cats really like to rub with their cheek and their foreheads and stuff. But sometimes I just want to hug the little thing, and it's like my ancestors are reaching out to me. So since the beginning of my special interest, I had a feeling that it had to do with my identity a little bit. I am very much neurodivergent. I've only been officially diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm pretty sure I'm autistic, and I'm basically neurospicy to the level of a Carolina Reaper. I've got all kinds of things going on in my head, but you know what? I'm sure a lot of us can relate. Oh, people seem to love the little guy. On the rock behind it, I need to try and find a way to do a handprint. Oh yes. Some of the earliest art that came from different hominids and stuff. were actually Neanderthal based. There are a lot of cave art where they would basically put their hand on the rock and they would take a little like a hollow, maybe like a bone or a reed or something, and put some paint inside it, like some pigment, usually red ochre, I think. And they would kind of just blow on it, like they would just, and basically create like they would, coat the area around it with pigment, and they would take their hand away, and what you get is not quite a circle, but a little bit of red paint with some negative space. There's also, I forget which cave it was found in, but there were some symbols that were created by Neanderthals. They managed to either carbon date or carbon date some of the rock around it. And they figured, oh, we don't think this was Homo sapiens that made this. This was probably actually Neanderthals. Now, whether or not that counts as written language, um, I do not know. However, the symbols possibly, obviously, they meant certain things. Oh, it wasn't just around one cave. I think it was a bunch of different caves that had similar symbols, and they analyzed all of them. I'm like, wait, they're like, wait a minute, these are basically the same symbols in different places. Oh, crap, these people were trying to communicate with each other. Oh, yes. Here is one very big myth about Neanderthals. Neanderthals were not freaking stupid. Honestly, one of the first instances of me realizing that I might actually be Neanderthalkin was one time during D&D. Bless his soul, he didn't mean it wrong. But you know how some people use Neanderthal to like call someone dumb or whatever? I felt offended, personally offended. Not quite to the level of, oh, someone called me a slur offended, but I still felt that they were talking about me, which was interesting. And that was one of the things that kind of led me to dig deeper. So I am what you might call a psychological alter human, a psychological otherkin. I believe that my neurodivergency plays a very major role in my identity as an alter human. It's why I identify as some kind of cat, and it's very most likely why I identify as a Neanderthal. Speaking of Neanderthals and autism, did anyone know that there's actually a link between Neanderthals and autism? And let me explain the concept of a link real quick. Whenever you read some article or something saying, oh, this thing links to another thing, it can mean a bunch of different things. I'm fairly certain the current running hypothesis is that modern day autism happened when Neanderthals and Homo sapiens met together, interbred together, and had children. There are a few traits that Neanderthals had that would make a lot of sense for neurodivergent people today. For example, um, sometimes ADHD, autism, and autoimmune diseases often get wrapped up within each other. For example, I have an autoimmune disease called Crohn's disease. Basically, in order for me to be stable, I need to inject a liquid chill pill in order for my digestive system to not get attacked by my immune system. Now, way, 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 way back then, having a very active immune system was necessary for survival, especially, given we were probably just using some plants and stuff as antibacterial stuff and infections and all that kind of thing and diseases. We needed a very strong immune system. The problem is today, well, not so much of a problem. modern medicine is very much a good thing. However, um, a lot of us still have bodies that it wouldn't be overreacting back then, but it's overreacting today. Hence why some autistic people tend to have other autoimmune diseases and digestive issues and stuff like that. Also, I'm fairly certain Neanderthals might have had a higher pain tolerance. Sorry, lower pain tolerance. They had a higher sensitivity, which was important because let's say you're out hunting or you're out gathering some herbs and you get cut. Let's say you're gathering some herbs and there's a really sharp plant or something that you get scratched on. You need to know right away that you have a scratch because you could get an infection. Meanwhile, some of us ADHD people have a tendency to get bruises and cuts, and we have no idea where they're from, and we don't even feel it until we look at it. That would not have exactly been a good thing back then. Uh, let's see. Oh, yeah. I just remembered another fun fact that also has to do with another unverified personal gnosis. So I mentioned before that the tiny little mammoth, sometimes I feel the urge to hug. The first time I felt that urge, that I felt like someone was kind of calling out to me through it. Um, I suppose, I guess if any of you guys like Vampire the Masquerade and if any of you guys know how wraiths work, I suppose that could be a kind of comparison. But basically, I think that through altar objects, sometimes ancestors and other gods and things like that can kind of communicate through them. Usually through like the urge to interact with an object or something like that, at least in my experience. But one day I felt a very strong urge to just hug this tiny mammoth. And I felt a masculine energy coming from it, which is interesting because I don't, as someone who identifies as a woman, um, you know, I've been a girl through and through. Sometimes I go a little bit into the non-binary, but I'm very much a girl. So naturally, I feel like I would relate more to my feminine ancestors. And yet, all of this dude is, coming through, and it's like, hey, I want to talk to you, and I want to interact with you, and stuff like that. And I just, of course, my first instinct was hug. um, And I kid you not, I found this out about, I want to say maybe the day before yesterday. I wasn't sure whether it was SciShow or a different science channel on YouTube, but basically, um, a lot of modern day Neanderthal DNA, or sorry, a lot of Neanderthal DNA that's in modern day humans, I think, I'll have to research more into this, but I think came from men. Something about the Y chromosome and such and such, um, which was really kind of interesting. Um, I only learned this a couple days ago, but the experience that I had came from months and months and months ago, maybe even a full year ago. I have like no concept of time. So, yeah, could have been at least a year ago. So I found that very fascinating. Um, let's see, what else? There was another. No, my ADHD brain lost my train of thought. Anyway, I guess while I attempt to get up back on track, does anybody have any questions? They're also responsible for many early human hominid burials. Yes! Yes! The burial rituals! Yes! Oh my gosh! Yes. Um, Now there's a lot of debate on whether that actually means a belief in an afterlife. It could. I think it could, but doesn't automatically mean that it does. And here's why. When you think of somebody, and let's say you have a member of your community and they pass away and they have their favorite objects maybe a tool that they really love to use, maybe a toy, maybe some jewelry, right? Even if you don't think they necessarily need that, even if you don't believe in an afterlife, would it not still maybe be important to bury them with those items? Those items belong to that person. Those items were loved by that person. That person may have carved that knife themselves, or that staff, or that piece of jewelry. So, yeah, Neanderthals and burial practices. Absolutely. Yes. Um, oh goodness, what else? There was another story that I had, but I totally forgot what it was. Uh oh, I can't currently remember. Does anybody have any questions? I guess we could potentially start the Q&A a little bit. I guess, oh yeah, I'm sure there's a panel question chat that I need to attempt to find. Unless anybody just wants to say anything in the normal chat, since it doesn't seem to be that active. Sorry if I'm like rambling too much and stuff. Oh, I also just thought about something on language. Um, Obviously, I'm pretty sure they most definitely had very similar anatomy. Whether or not their voices were more higher pitched, I'm not sure, but I do kind of subscribe to the hypothesis that they had a more nasally voice. They did have bigger noses than we do. They obviously have thicker eyebrows, which I'm fairly certain was for um like getting bumped on the head, especially during a hunt. Oh, Shanidar, there's the Shanidar cave. There was a bunch of individuals found. Shanidar 1, I believe. I think it was Shanidar 1. He has evidence of an amputated arm. He was blind in one eye and deaf in one ear. And what we're pretty sure happened was there was some type of injury. Maybe it was during a hunt, or maybe he fell off a cliff or something, and he bumped his head really hard and got his arm injured. How they did this, I have no idea. I would not be surprised if alcohol was discovered then, so that possibly could have been used to cleanse the wound. Maybe they knocked him out so that he would pass out as they were doing the amputation. Who knows? But he is one of the earliest examples of disabled people being taken care of in their community. Humans, and yes, I include Neanderthals in that because Neanderthals are most definitely a kind of human. They loved their people. We have always been taking care of disabled people. Anyone that tries to tell you that disabled people are not worth taking care of are bullshit. Disabled people are very much, well, people. A lot of times people tend to think that Neanderthals were just about pragmatism and just about logic and blah 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 blah, which honestly is kind of a very old-fashioned type of view upon Neanderthals. Just like anybody else, they loved their community. Um, so yeah. Oh, uh, and also, there's been a lot of reconstructions on Neanderthals. There's a science of taking someone's skull and reconstructing their face, which is fascinating. I absolutely love Shanidar Z. I think she's very, very pretty. Um, and also, I was lucky enough to see a local, well, it was a traveling little exhibit. Unfortunately ended like, last January or something. But oh gosh, let me see if I can find. Aha, here we are. Let me just send a couple pictures. So this was an exhibit that I got to go to, and that little stuffed animal, his name is Peanut. He, Peanut's my little man. But yeah, what you guys see here is, I believe, a father and daughter duo that were displayed at a local museum for a little bit of time. So basically, they took their skulls, they took what skeletons they had of them, and given their knowledge of anatomy on humans, and because Neanderthals, I think, are one of our closest relatives on the hominin family tree. They're basically exactly like us, damn near, if not for a little bit of facial features and maybe some ever so slight cognitive differences. But yeah, there is a reason that when I look at Shenadar Z, for example, I think, oh, aunt. She's my auntie. Like, she might not literally be my auntie, but she gives mad auntie energy because they're so close to us in our family tree. They were one of, I believe we have a common ancestor. Oh, I love that emoji. Yes. Um, and I love her little face and her in the pose that they gave her. And the father, he's actually holding behind him a napped stone. I believe it was like an arrowhead or something that he was making or something. Um, oh yes, Neanderthals also did music. Um, I'm a sole believer in that rhythm was one of the human instruments. Well, rhythm and voice. Obviously, we use voice to communicate and stuff, so it probably didn't take too long a time to figure out that we could go ah, 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 like we can do different notes and we can sing. So that obviously must have been one of the earliest human instruments, our own bodies. And of course, you can slap yourself and you can beat on your chest and you can take a stick and you can slam it on the ground. And then eventually people figured out, oh, well, if you take some hide and you stretch it really nice and you bang on it and it sounds really good. But sorry, we know for a fact that Neanderthals made music. You want to know why? Because we found some bone flute, baby. I honestly forget which cave it was found in, but we found a part of a bone flute. And at first, some people were like, oh, well, maybe an animal gnawed on it or something. And then they're like, no, these holes that were drilled are very like patterny. What's the word? When you make a flute, you have to go down a certain segment and like you have to go down a certain distance. And basically, they found that the holes were very much perfectly round, I think, and that they basically corresponded to some notes. In fact, there are some reconstructions of bone flutes today. I think the one that was found might have been made out of like a cave bear or something. Oh, also Neanderthals might have had yes, flute is hard to make. I wonder if somebody remember the painting that I was talking about earlier where you take where you blow through like a reed or something. I wonder if someone blew through it and it went too 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 too. Wait a minute. This thing makes sound. when I blow through it a certain way. What? Oh, yeah. Also, Neanderthals, I think, are maybe a couple, I don't know how many millions of years old, but they're at least a couple hundred. Neanderthals have existed for a long time, so they had a while to figure out this music shit. Yes, precise. Precise might be a good word for it. Thank you. We imagine based on learning to play it as an instrument. Yeah. So, yeah, Neanderthals were very, very cool. IRC, the London Museum, also has the oldest wooden spear. Oh, cool. Oh my god, that's amazing. I think there's also some debate on how good their throwing ability was. Whether or not Neanderthals use an atlatl, which is basically kind of like a spear extension kind of thing, is debated. Um, but yeah, at least definitely in kind of like the more southern Middle Eastern parts, there's a lot of evidence of Homo sapien Neanderthal interbreeding. And then basically there were, I think it's a combination of several things. One, the amount of Homo sapiens coming up from the south probably outnumbered the amount of Neanderthals that were left. Um, there's also some competition, maybe a little bit of war for resources here and there, but eventually, Neanderthals kind of just went away. However, how extinct they are is debated. The way I see it is as a species, yes, they are extinct, but we have a small amount of their DNA that acts as their legacy in us. Basically, they got absorbed into our current genome. In fact, evolution isn't so much a tree anymore. There's a new way of thinking of it. Think of it as rivers coming apart and coming back together, and then coming apart and coming back together. It's a lot more like, yeah, especially like, as a river comes down from a mountain, for example, or goes out into the sea. I forget exactly what the type of geological structure it's called. But yeah, rivers splitting off and coming back in and splitting off and coming back in. It's more like an evolutionary family river line. Oh, also, it's also not exactly survival of the fittest. That is a way of saying it, but the way I think of it is the good enough to have kids before you die. That's basically how it works. I mean, all you really needed to do was, grow up, have kids, and die at 40 years old. Maybe if you got lucky, 60 or 70, Good. It's the survival of the good enough, which may and then there's also another little hypothesis rule that I think of, which might explain why it took us so long to do things. Um, a lot of anthropologists don't think that Neanderthals used like clay, for example. The current thinking is that they used animal hide and basically made like sacks, and they would like boil things in that. Basically, it's the survival of the if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Survival, survival of the good enough, pretty much. Yeah, extinction and reabsorption feel different. Yeah, survival of the yeah, you can have a child, which is how we had oh yeah, that's basically my ramble for the night. Does anybody wanna, I guess, do we want to start Q&A? Let's start Q&A. And this was mostly my experience on researching Neanderthals, and this was basically more of an info dump. So if anybody wants to ask about my own experiences as potentially being one, Feel free. Um, oh gosh, there was another panel. Was it also Centaurus Festival? I'm not sure. But oh gosh, I tried opening a can and it went fizzy. I didn't even shake it up that much. RAP. Anyways, there's a really good Archaeosapiens panel done by somebody a couple years ago. God, I'm forgetting their name at the top of my head. But they're also a Neanderthal kin, and they talk about their experience identifying as honestly someone who should be in the past. The way I think of it is we are, I feel like on some level everybody's Archaeosapien. Because let's be honest, our world has changed way too much for our actual ability to adapt. It's why we have a panic attack before an exam, for example. It's not life threatening, but sometimes our brain thinks it's life threatening. Just our fight or flight response alone isn't adapted to the modern era. It's why so many of us have depression, anxiety, all of that stuff, especially if you're neurodivergent. Especially if you're neurodivergent. I feel like I need to just exist in a forest somewhere and grab herbs and hunt some deer and some fish and live in a cave or a little outcrop shelter and call it a day. I honestly don't think any of us are meant for this modern society. Some people like it, don't get me wrong. The convenience of modernity is, well, convenient. It's very nice living in a house, but it sucks having to pay rent. Trade would honestly be much nicer to me. I don't really understand the concept of money. Well, I understand it, but I don't like it. Why do I have to go to a grocery store? Why can't I just go out and find things? So that's kind of my take on modern humanity. Let me be free to create things. Yes, we were not made for capitalism. We were not. True capitalism. Do you know the oldest living Neanderthal? That's a good question. I actually don't. Um, all I know are basically what certain individuals that we found looked like. I want to say the oldest of the Neanderthals might have been at least 140,000 years ago. Yes, yes, the panel. That's the panel. Yes, I think so. To awaken as ancient in the modern age. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's the one that I heard. And as I was figuring out my own identity, I was actually kind of reaching out in one of the other Ultra Human servers, being like, "Hey, is anyone else a Neanderthal? Does anybody know a Neanderthal? I need to talk to a Neanderthal." And somebody went, "My friend's a Neanderthal. Here's their panel," and I'm like, "Holy crap!" And I relate to a lot of it. Just interesting because a lot of their experiences I relate to as someone who's potentially autistic, which I guess is another reason why I think the two might be linked. I think they described when they were shifting, they would have a lot more strong feelings and stuff like that, which I find very interesting. Um, oh, I remember the UPG I was going to mention now. Um, a little bit of a content warning. I will be discussing the death of a pet. So this happened several years ago. I ended up moving out from my parents' house, and one of my family's dogs I did not get to see again. She was very old and she passed. Um, and I was having a very hard time processing it. I was doing the thing of, um, you know, God, I was basically doing the Elsa thing of conceal, don't feel like that. I just wasn't allowing myself to experience the grief. So I do a ritual with my friend. I come home and I feel the urge to talk to the goddess Hel, who is the Norse goddess of the underworld. And what started out as me asking her, please take care of Chloe, make sure she's okay, became me bawling, and I mean bawling for a half hour straight. And I felt like I had abandoned her. Like I felt like, she didn't know where I was. And she passed away not knowing what happened to me. And I just felt so guilty. And with hell, I kind of felt her as like a presence behind me, being like, I'm here, but I'm not going to stop your pain because you have to feel it. You have to grieve. So so I do that whole thing. And then, I go through that grieving process. I process my emotions. I ended up giving my old dog an offering after that, which was kind of funny. Um, whenever I give food offerings, I like to eat them after. So basically, I'm like, well, at least she can eat human food now. So I gave her a slice of cheese. And usually it'll take at least a couple hours to maybe a couple days before I feel the urge to eat the offering, depending on what the food item is. It wasn't even like 10 to 15 minutes before I get a very strong, like, you can eat it now. You can eat it now. And I'm like, what the heck? That was so quick. And then I got a mental image of her just scarfing down food, which was totally Chloe. She was such a foodie. Like she would scarf down everything. Like she was supposed to eat at 6 in the morning. Nuh-uh, not according to her. That was 4 o'clock in the morning that you had to feed her. Oh. So afterwards, I decide to use my runes. I like to use Norse runes to communicate sometimes. And I, was gonna talk to my Neanderthal ancestors, being like, hey, I don't know if you guys understand the concept of a pet, but here's what I'm going through. And I was kind of just flipping the runes back and forth in my hand, and one of them falls out. The rune meaning journey. And it wasn't right side up, it wasn't upside down, but it was exactly halfway up. I guess if you were to take the ride home rune and turn it halfway anti-clockwise, where basically the arrow part, it looks like a R. Take the letter R and flip it on its back, right? um and that was very, very interesting because like I took that to mean, oh, maybe they were like about halfway through the domestication process. And then I Googled it later. Turns out, yeah, Neanderthals did not, in fact, domesticate dogs. We did that way, way, way later. But I don't know, maybe they were at the phase of like, maybe some wolf packs would follow behind after a hunt. Maybe somebody would, at a very big distance, toss some food their way. Maybe, if they were brave enough. But basic that I love it when that happens, when like I have an experience and then later I learn a new science thing about them that confirms my experience in a way. That's very fun with that when that happens, especially when it has to do with ancestor work. Um so yeah, that's basically the last UPG I had. Any questions? I don't want to go too long, even though I did start late. I do know some people have to go to bed, and I think typically these things are supposed to last about an hour long, question mark. So, yeah, any questions? I am curious though, who is the oldest Neanderthal? Yes, I'm literally doing a Google on the spot. Ooh, um, the first recognized fossil Neanderthal one. That wasn't Shenadar one, was it? Um, suppose. Oh, I think it was 400-ish thousand years ago. Might be the one of the oldest Neanderthals. Oh, and I'm pretty sure Homo sapiens and Neanderthalensis had Homo erectus question mark as our immediate direct common ancestor? Or was it, I know there was also, I think, like, Homo ancestor or something? Gosh, when it comes to anthropology and finding new species, hell, even Denisovin, and like, was it the Dragon Man? I'm not sure, but yeah, even in like China, we're figuring out Denisovins and their play and all of this. Oh, and of course, is Homo florensis, the small little guys, aka like the Hobbit, quote unquote, that existed in Southeast Asia. Fascinating case that humans went through island dwarfism. Island dwarfism and island gigantism is so fascinating. Um, but yeah, basically there were a bunch of different species kind of mixing at the time, and then some species evolved into others, and blah 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 blah. Oh, in terms of YouTube channels, yeah, Homo florensis. I recommend um Stefan Milo. Stefan Milo has an amazing YouTube channel. Stefan Milo. I'm gonna type it out just so y'all know how to spell it. Um, he does a lot of good YouTube shit. I'm also currently reading. I need to read it more, and I think she also did some interviews on YouTube about her research. I'm currently, I mean, I need to start chapter 2. It's called Kindred: Neanderthal Life, Love, Death, and Art by Rebecca Rag Sykes. So far, so good. Just listened in and Homo Florence is mentioned. Yes. Oh, panel questions. Yes, let me look in panel questions. Thank you. Let's see, where's the first? Okay, that was at 5 p.m. Where's like some of the most recent? Are there any specific activities that make you connect? Yes, 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 yes. Sorry, I'm like jumping up and down and spinning. Um, I really want to learn how to do flint napping. I did take a couple rocks and I did like strike them and I got some little flakes off it and I put it on my altar. I'm like, look what I did, you guys, look what I did. My goal is to learn how to make a tool someday. There's also there was one time when there was this hill behind a cafe that I really love to go to. It's this queer run, queer friendly, queer owned coffee shop. I don't want to dox myself, but I really want to recommend it to you guys. Um, you know what? I don't live there, so it's a place called Sugar House. If you're ever in Utah, Salt Lake, whatever, uh, nice little neighborhood called Sugar House. It's called Sugar House Coffee. It is so so yummy. Um, and they also do this thing where you can do basically where you have the barista surprise you with a type of coffee. They ask what flavors you like and don't like, whether you want it hot or cold, what kind of milk you want, and they surprise you. And the only two rules are we're not going to tell you what it is until you try it. Of course, they ask you if you're allergic to anything. And if you don't like it, we'll make you another one. But anyway, behind there, there's a nice little hill. And especially during the springtime when there were a bunch of flowers, I liked climbing up on that hill. And I was kind of like learning how to like grip the trees and get my footing and stuff like that. Um, Especially for some Neanderthals that would probably be in more forested, mountainous environments and stuff like that. Basically, foraging and honestly learning about the Ice Age and just thinking about who they might have been as a people. And, um, I'm sure certainly, especially post hybridization, they definitely had autistic kids. So how would they have taken care of them and how would they have seen them, right? It's like, oh, here's your cousin Big Rock. Big Rock does not want to be touched. He absolutely hates touch and he dislikes the texture of boiled mammoth for some reason, but he's an expert, and I mean an expert in medicinal plants. right? Like you got that person with the special interest. Maybe they have some weird little sensory issues and stuff. Things that today we would call autism, but maybe they did or didn't have a term for it back then. Who knows? That's that's kind of what I like to do. But yeah, I really want to learn how to flint knap so bad. Um, one of my exes actually, he I found a good stick. I wanted to cut it in half to make a staff out of it, or rather a cane. And he just found a couple rocks and just started banging them together and made a knife out of it. Uh, so yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah. Oh, and cooking. Um, I especially like with that story about like the food offering and stuff like that. Oh yeah, I do have another funny little story. I did manage to I did offer a piece of a brownie once, and it was like a good like week or so, and I'm just like, it's been there for several days. Why haven't I gotten the feeling to eat it yet? And my partner goes, Lynx, that's probably more sugar than they've had in their lifetime. And I'm like, oh no, I messed up. Oops. Gave the Neanderthals way too much sugar. But yeah, I would very much love to find a bone flute replica or something and try and maybe make the same music they did and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, who did that? Oh, oh, back to the Florensis convo. We learned a tiny bit about them in our local history classes. Flores, Indonesia. Hey, that's where it was. Yeah. Given is also a good channel. Oh, I'll have to watch that. There's also somebody who I think it's like North O2 who also does a lot of videos on like Paleolithic humans and stuff like that. He's currently working on a horror series concerning Neanderthals and Homo sapiens meeting. Now, whether or not I don't entirely like the trope of, oh, they hurt each other and blah 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 blah. I mean, yeah, sometimes that happens, but I'm sure he makes it clear that that's not all that happened. Uh, so yeah, their bio and through. Oh, okay, I'm definitely searching that. Gut, thick guts, thick gibbon. Oh, maybe I've seen a. Mm, have I seen their stuff before? I'm not quite sure if I recognize them. Ooh, all these videos look so cool. I love that. Ooh, did Denise Evans finally get a face? Ooh. Ah, dang it. One of my earbuds went out. Alrighty. Let me go back to panel questions to see if there's. Why can I never find. Alright, fine. I guess I'll have to click on that link again. Any other questions? I'm not sure how much time I have, but I guess it might not be a bad idea to wrap up a little bit soon. Oh yeah. I also have a vampire kin type. Now, what kind of vampire I am exactly, I'm not sure. I do very much well, I don't know if it was a cameo type. I don't know how short-lived it was, but I very much love Vampire the Masquerade and I relate a lot to that, even though I don't identify as a supernatural kind of vampire. So that's kind of interesting. I can kind of see myself as maybe someone who lives in the Ice Age, was part Neanderthal, and ended up being also part vampire species or something like that. I wonder how back vampire lore goes. Because I know we had some stuff from like, like the medieval, stuff and maybe a little bit before that. But I really do wonder what the oldest vampire story was. That sounds fascinating to me. Um, but yeah, I guess TLDR, because of my special interest in Neanderthals and um anthropology and the Ice Age and stuff like that, and because of my neurodivergency and my work with Neanderthals, I honestly partially identify as a Neanderthal, and I've had a lot of experiences that marry both science and spirituality when it comes to them. And sometimes I've had experiences where something would happen only to later find out that maybe there might have been a scientific basis on that. It's interesting. When it comes to ancestor work for me, I feel like they give very little information, little tidbits, individual little experiences that, oh, maybe like it absolutely makes sense that it was a male ancestor that reached out. Or, yeah, they didn't domesticate dogs back then. So maybe like if they're able to interact with us today, maybe they kind of know what a pet is, but they didn't experience a pet. Uh, and honestly, it just goes to show how humanity is very much a spectrum. Because Neanderthals were humans, Homo florensis were humans, Denisovans, all of the other hominids, I honestly consider humans. We're just different kinds of humans. We look slightly different, we're adapted to different environments, but we're close enough to where we can come together and we can be family. I think it's very important to, especially for those who like to do ancestor work, to not forget our ancient ancestors. And hell, that could even go back to mammals too. In fact, I think our current era, what the Cenozoic or something, I think is like the age of mammals or something, which has been going on for many millions of years. Uh, so yeah, that's basically my little info dump. I guess anything else before we wrap up and let people go to bed? Thank you for hosting and sharing. Yes. Thank you guys. I'm so happy I was able to do this last minute. I honestly just wanted an excuse to info dump to you guys. I just wanted to be autistic. Sometimes when I hear about Neanderthals, I'll do little stompy stomps and I'll flap and I'll like full on stim. um they had to on the last day of that little museum exhibit, they had to practically drag me out of there. Of course, of course. And if anybody wants to like DM me or anything like that, I think there's also I don't know how we can potentially share invites to servers and stuff like that, but I am in I am in a server for paleotherians, for paleo alter humans and stuff like that. It's called Prehistoric Party. We do have a little chat in there for some Ice Age folk and stuff like that. And basically, it's just a bunch of dinosaurs and other ancient creatures all vibing together. So yeah, I guess come join us if you want. So yeah. Alrighty. Well, if everyone's okay with it, I'm actually gonna hop off here and let everybody calm down and go to bed. Um, I may or may not be in like general chat or anything if anybody wants to like chat or anything. But yeah, I guess thank you very much. Made my anthroarchaeology student brain very happy. Yes, if I could redo college, I would absolutely go into biology and anthropology. I just lied to myself and told myself, well, you can't go into biology because you can't do math, which I very much regret doing. But maybe someday I can go back to college. But unfortunately, I am American, and we all know the American system sucks. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for letting me info dump math. Math cries. I know. I was a little bit better at I just had a really bad teacher in high school, and then I got to, like, college, and I'm like, "Oh, wait, I get it now." Like, I just needed the right teacher. But I don't think it requires too much math. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys so much. Before I ramble anymore, I should probably hop off and let you guys go. Um, may or may not hop in general VC, depending on if other people hop in or whatever. Uh, yeah. I wish there was like a written general chat, but whatever. Anyway, thank you guys so much. There doesn't require much math if that helps. Yeah, I know. I just got to be able to learn about humans and skulls and biology and culture and artifacts and all that really, 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 really cool stuff. All right. Okay. Bye, everybody.